Hi, welcome you all. Let us go to the next session, which is on learning about the cabinet and the parliament. Till now, we have seen about the rules of the prime minister, president, the vice president, and the cabinet. Now, let us go for the parliament, how it functions, and the ministers. The cabinet or the council of ministers, according to Article 74, is that there shall be a council of ministers with the prime minister at the head, and Article 75 deals with the appointment, tenure, responsibility, the qualifications, the oath taken by them, the allowances and the salaries of the ministers. Let us see about all this in detail. The cabinet or the council of ministers, as we were discussing, is formed to help the president through the prime minister. So it is used to advise the president, who works on the basis of the advice given by it. The advice given by the council of ministers need not be inquired into any court of India, and this advice is given through the prime minister by the cabinet ministers. So next is the role of the cabinet. The cabinet, as we were studying, is the supreme executive authority of the central government. It is the highest decision making authority in our political and administrative system. It is the chief formulating body of the central government. All the laws will be formulated by the cabinet, and then it will be passed by the president for agreement. It is an advisory board to the president, and its advice is binding on him. It is the chief crisis manager, and thus it deals with all the emergency situations. It deals with all major legislative and financial matters. It deals with all foreign policies and foreign affairs. It exercises the control over the higher appointments like constitutional authorities and senior secretariat administrators. It is the chief coordinator of the central administration. So whatever is to be done by the central government is planned and decided by the cabinet, and it will be executed with the permission of the president. So these are the list of cabinet ministers with their portfolio. You can see here with according to year 2020. Now let us see, is there any difference between the council of ministers and the cabinet? Well, the council of ministers are the ministers which are divided into three categories, that is the cabinet ministers, ministers of state and deputy ministers. So the cabinet ministers form a part of the council of ministers. The cabinet includes the cabinet ministers only, hence it is a part of the council of ministers. The council of ministers will not meet to transact the government business. It has no collective functions. It is separated into three parts, as we already saw. So the cabinet ministers will be meeting together, or the minister of states, they will be discussing things together, or the deputy ministers, they will be discussing together. So the council of ministers together are having no functions. They have separate functions as three parts. But the cabinet it meets as a body frequently and usually once in a week to deliberate and take decisions regarding the transaction of the governmental business. Thus it have a collective function. The council of ministers have all powers, okay, but it is in theory. They will not combine together for executing the powers. They are separated, and each team will be performing their own work. Its functions are determined by the cabinet. But the cabinet, when you see, it exercises in practice the powers of the Council of Ministers, and thus it acts for the latter. It directs the Council of Ministers to take the policy decisions and which binds the President with the ministers, and they take the policy decisions and advise the President to execute that decisions which are taken. So, the Council of Ministers implement the decisions taken by the Cabinet. This is a constitutional body. The Council of Ministers is a constitutional body. It is given by Articles 74 and 75 of our Constitution. Its size and classifications are, however, not mentioned in the Constitution. That is, the number of the members is not defined, but its size is determined by the Prime Minister according to the need. It is collectively responsible to the lower house, and it is a wider body consists of 60 to 70 ministers of the government. The cabinet supervises the implementation of its decisions taken by the Council of Ministers. So the cabinet have given the idea and the Council of Ministers have to execute it. Council of Ministers means collectively they will be executing it. According to Article 352, the Constitutional Amendment Act, it was not mentioned in the original Constitution. Now, the Article 352 defines that the Cabinet consists of the Prime Minister and other ministers rank are appointed under Article 75 and does not describe its powers and functions. So, the Cabinet or the Council of Ministers is determined by the Prime Minister according to the necessity or the willingness. It enforces the collective responsibility of the Council of Ministers to the Lower Sabha, that is the lower parliament. It is a smaller body consisting of a very few number of ministers. We saw in the previous line that the cabinet according to 2020 is having hardly 10 ministers. Okay. So the decisions taken by the advisory committee will be given to the cabinet ministers. They will be checking it and they have to pass it in the parliament according to the advice given by the president and the prime minister. So the parliament is the legislative organ of the union government. Article 79 to 122 in part 5 of the constitution deals with the organization, its composition, the duration, the officers, how they have to be selected, the procedures, privileges for the officers, the powers which are given to them, etc. with respect to the parliament. The parliament may be perceived as a political institution to ensure the realization of what Mahatma Gandhi said, that democracy is an art and science of mobilizing and utilizing the entire physical, economical and immaterial and metaphysical resources for the common good of all the people. So all these resources which are available should be taken to the common people. Okay, for that only we have the Council of Ministers, the Parliament and everything. They have to find out the ways how to develop the country and how to develop or help the people. The qualifications to be a member of the Parliament are, as we have seen for the Prime Minister, the President, etc. Here also the member of the Parliament should be a citizen of India. He must make and subscribe to an oath or affirmation before the person authorized by the Election Commission. He must not be less than 30 years of age for the Rajya Sabha and he must not be less than 25 years of age for Lok Sabha. He must possess other qualifications which are prescribed by the Parliament. The composition of the parliament, it consists of two houses, that is the lower house and the upper house. Okay. So Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. We call the upper house as the Rajya Sabha and the lower house as Lok Sabha. The Article 79 states that the parliament comprises of the president and the two houses. This is the Indian Parliament, the President House, okay, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. The Rajya Sabha is called as the upper house of the Indian Parliament. The house is permanent in nature and it can never be dissolved because the term for each person who is selected there is for 6 years and it will be like a rotating process. One third of the members will retire biennially while the other member continue their tenure. So it is an election in separate batches. So the people will be always remaining there and they will be also in groups. Okay. So the retired members are subjected for a re-election. So the Rajya Sabha has no closing, it will not be getting dissolved. There will be always a particular team which is functioning as Rajya Sabha. According to Article 80 of the Indian Constitution, this house consists of 250 members, out of which 238 members are elected by means of a single transferable vote. That is the normal election. 12 members are nominated by the President on advice of the Council of Ministers. These ministers, which are 12 members, are selected by depending on their achievement. Okay. So they can be elected from particular state or the President can appoint 12 members depending on various categories, various sections. The chairperson and the deputy chairperson of the Rajya Sabha. In Rajya Sabha, we have a presiding officer. The Vice President of India is called as the chairperson of this house. So everyday activity has to be taken care of with the help of the Rajya Sabha. And so apart from Vice President, one more person can be there as the deputy chairperson to ensure that all the duties of the Rajya Sabha are correctly carried out. Now let us see about the Lok Sabha. As per Article 331 of the Indian Constitution, the Lok Sabha has a maximum of 530 chosen members from different states. Not more than 20 members to be chosen from the Union territories. The President has the powers to nominate additional members whichever is left out. If he thinks that if there is no member from the Anglo-Indian community, a particular community, then he can select 2 members from them. Okay. So seats are reserved here for certain communities and the President has the power to elect people for that particular seats. The Lok Sabha, unless dissolved midway, continues for 5 years from the day of its first meeting. Next is regarding the territorial constituencies. As the member of Lok Sabha are elected directly, it needs to have a proper division of the country into smaller units. And for this purpose, India is divided into smaller territorial constituencies. These constituencies are stored out in a way that so that each Indian state will have an adequate share in the parliament according to the proportionality of its people. The Speaker and Deputy Speaker of the Lok Sabha. The presiding officer of the Lok Sabha is called as the Speaker. He or she is generally elected in the first meeting of the Lok Sabha and they serve for a period of 5 years. Accordingly, the election of the speaker which is done for the Rajya Sabha, okay, their vice president remains as the unnotified chairperson, but here we have the option to select the speaker. So we have to inform the president regarding the members those who are to be selected, and a date will be fixed and the people will be asked to elect. So the members of the Lok Sabha will be electing the particular person called as the speaker and the deputy speaker. The functions of the speaker. The speaker is considered to be the main person in the parliament, and the main function of the speaker is to decide upon whether the bill is a money bill or not. He is also having the responsibility in maintaining the decorum and discipline of the house. Also, in order of precedence, he is ranked 6th, that is equivalent to the Chief Justice. Let us now see about the functions of the parliament. The major function of the parliament is on legislation, and as per the articles 107 and 108 of the Indian Constitution, legislating essentially means making laws and provisions for smooth functioning of the government and the nation. Also, the basic function of the parliament is providing the cabinet which stands responsible for the parliament itself, and it also provides a proper aid to the president. The parliament has the control over the cabinet, and it is the function of the parliament to see whether the cabinet is able to maintain its trust for the 5 years, and if the ruling party loses its majority, the cabinet must to resign. Also, criticizing and evaluating the process which is taken by the cabinet and the ministers is the foremost function of the parliament. So, the control of the cabinet lies within the parliament. The parliament also has the control known as the financial control. It has the authority to allocate expenditures and finances for public services and other affairs. It also provides the measures to be taken for raising the revenue, and also it has to decide the dispersal of the finance among the states appropriate to its needs. The functions of the bill or parliament also lies in passing the bills. An ordinary bill or a money bill or the financial bills, all these decisions are taken by the parliament. Any bill which is proposed in the parliament is an ordinary bill except those which get certificate of money bill by the speaker of the Lok Sabha. So the speaker decides whether the bill is to be passed like a money bill or an ordinary bill. According to Article 110 of the Indian Constitution, a bill can be defined as a money bill if it deals with the imposition, abolition, alteration or regulation of any of the taxes, and such bills can only be introduced in the Lok Sabha and only by a member having the ministerial portfolio. So only a minister can pass this. So only we are having a finance minister who decides on the taxes and all this, how it gets to be collected and all this are decided by the finance minister, and it has to be approved by the parliament. The financial bills are quite similar to those of the money bills, and these bills are introduced only in Lok Sabha on the recommendation by the president. So in this session we saw about the parliament, the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, and how the members should be. What about the speaker of the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha and the other cabinet ministers? We also saw about the difference between the cabinet and the council of ministers. And now let us revise on this. You list the roles of the cabinet and also write a note on the parliament. And we will meet in the next session. Thank you.